The Johnsky is a YouTube channel run by and run for people over the age of 13. People under the age of 13 should click off of this video right now, or watch with a parent or guardian. Viewer discretion is advised.
You don't scare me!
Milt is freaking today, militiamen. My name is King Prime. Welcome back to another video here on the YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at another brand new Star Wars The Vintage Collection action figure. That being the Star Wars The Vintage Collection Star Wars Rebels Kanan Jarrus. Finally! Okay. After 90,000 years of waiting, it's a flashbang to see the red Rebels logo on any of these figures. Because I've been waiting for PVC Rebels figures since Rebels existed. It has been a long journey getting here. I am more than excited to review this figure. Before we do that, let's take a look at what it comes in. Of course, up at the top there, we have that nice blood red Rebels logo that we see with all the VC figures, as well as a picture of Kanan from the TV show. That's a 3D render of, the animation model. His name is Kanan Jarrus, and it has a kind of olive green nameplate to match the olive green pill. Kenner logo down at the bottom. On the back of the card there, we have that nice old style TVC packaging with a tiny little bio right there. Some legal jargon, and that's about it. I say in every single video, my friends, but you really care about the packaging. If you're a boxed or carded collector, which I am not, I'm here to open and review toys, and that is just what I'm going to do. Freeze frame.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
Freeze frame on freeze, and here is Kanan out of the packaging. Before we take a look at him, let's take a look at what he comes with. First up is the least important accessory, and that is this blaster pistol that we do see Kanan use a couple times during the show. This is a DL-18 pistol, if I'm remembering correctly, the same one that Luke used on Jabba in episode 6. It's just a brown grayish piece of plastic that can be held if you bring Kanan in here. He does have a trigger finger hand, and you can just slide that into said hand and have it held as a murder weapon. Or if you don't want it to be held, you could slide it into Kanan's holster on his leg and just keep it there. Unfortunately, I've had some issues with this pistol sliding out of that holster. However, if you really shove it down in there and make sure it stays, I don't think it'll come out. Moving on, however, we do have my favorite accessory that is included in these sets, that being the unextended lightsaber hilt. In this case, his is, I believe, tricolor, or maybe bicolor. Yeah, I think his is just two-tone. It has the silver emitter and the pommel on the end with the little ring that is supposed to clip to the belt. And the regular handle, which is cast in a kind of gunmetal gray plastic. Very plain. Unfortunately, this set does not decouple, and you can't just store the components on Kanan's belt like you're supposed to be able to. The emitter is supposed to go on the back, and then I think the regular tube is supposed to either go here or along his belt sideways like this. I can't really remember, truthfully, or maybe it goes on the back as well. The Black Series figure can do it. This one can't, unfortunately, but it can clip onto his belt right here. As you see, there's a silver little buckle there that you're supposed to plug the hilt of the saber into, and it'll just dangle right like that. And so at least there is storage. It's just not super accurate storage to how we see Kanan stored in the show, or at least in the pilot of the show. Additionally, Kanan does also have his final accessory, which is the exact same lightsaber, but it's extended, and the blade is a nice rich dark blue. I do like that, admittedly. I actually love the way this looks with Kanan as a set piece. The blade is long. You can kind of get him to dual wield it, at least. It's going to do the Vintage Collection bend when you try to get him to dual wield it. But this is not bad whatsoever. Of course, I'd be remiss if he didn't come with this, so I'm glad he does. Because otherwise, I'd have to ask Hasbro a few questions myself. Moving on to Kanan. He does look like Kanan. I was just kind of expecting him to look like how he appeared in the Ahsoka show, because the Ahsoka show had a photograph, or I guess a holograph, whatever they're called in Star Wars, of Freddie Prinze Jr. as Kanan from Season 1. However, this is still a great portrait of Kanan from Season 1. He has the goatee, of course, and the tiny little ponytail in the back, which is perfectly good. He does have a great face sculpt. Even though this is not set on anyone's face, it does still look like a real face. It looks like the cartoon come to life, just with a few more polygons, which is perfectly acceptable. Going down, he does have his two-tone mustard green and sort of mustard brown shirt that he has, the long sleeve shirt with the fingerless gloves, because of course everybody who's ever cool needs fingerless gloves. But on the right side of his body, he does have the armor that we see him with in the show, which is connected to a brown strap, which goes all the way around and connects in the back, which is painted, which is nice. The armor is painted in a metallic green, which is really, really nice. And there is, of course, that tampograph of that logo that we see him with in the show. I'm not sure what this is. And then there's the little Spectre 2, and there's a 02 on there. Moving down to his belt, he does have a holster, as I said earlier, which is connected to these two straps, which are painted with buckles connecting them to the belt. And as you can see, the belt is also painted with some silver details around that. This one should have been picked out. It's not, unfortunately. However, everything else is strapped. Oh, and that rivet right there probably should have been picked out, but you know, I'm really nitpicking at this point. He's wearing sort of, just like that Jedi denim with some knee pads that are faux strapped onto his knees. They look good, actually, and the strap is actually there, which gives it a little bit more of a believable look. He does also have calf-high boots with a little bit of ridging in it with some different colored paints of brown, which are nice and I believe accurate to the show. Very plain. It's, of course, Kanan is supposed to be in disguise in this outfit, and so that is what he is. And it has the same effect, except for the armor, which is kind of weird to be in disguise, but I digress. I'm ranting now. Moving on to the articulation, Kanan does, of course, a great range of motion at the neck due to that dumbbell joint, which is very well articulated, as you can see, just by moving it around. There's a lot of movement. If we pop Kanan's head back on, he can get the forward and the sideways just not very well. Forward, great. Sideways, not so much. However, at the shoulders, he can get a full range of motion outward. It can go 180 degrees as well as 360 degrees around. He does have an elbow bend, which is just about 90 degrees, and of course this does double as a swivel. At the wrists, he has a 360 degree rotation there because of the peg inside, and a down and up and down and up at both hands. For a pistol wielding and lightsaber wielding character, I think that this is perfect. He's not holding any rifles anytime soon. However, he does hold his lightsabers forward and his blasters down, so that's perfect. I think that's great articulation points there. At the waist, he does have a ball joint, as you can see. It gets a great range of motion because of the way his shirt is cut. In fact, in some ways, you can even see right into the peg there, which is a little bit interesting. Kind of breaks the sculpt, but at least he can get his rebel reps in very nice there. He does also have, and mind the angle here, ball jointed hips, so you can get a full range of motion forward, about that far back, and that far out, almost full splits at the hips. However, because of the holster, his right leg is just a little limited, though you can still get some pretty good articulation out of it. He does also have an upper thigh cut, as well as a knee bend, which goes about 90 degrees. Of course, this can also swivel. I say that. I forget to say it in every single review. He does not have a boot cut, which is unfortunate. I would expect that of characters with high boots. However, he does not have one. What he does have is a foot that can go all the way down, all the way up, and a pretty good ankle pivot there. So overall, fantastic articulation for Kanan. I think that this is perfect. I would have loved that boot cut, truthfully. And so that's going to knock my rating score just a little bit. However, I don't think that this is a bad grade at all. The one thing I will say, though, is that Kanan is sometimes a bitch to pose. He is standing now, but he's not now. So I don't understand what's making him so back heavy. It can't be his fucking ponytail, because I'd be stupid. But for some reason, I guess it's just the way his feet are sculpted. The heel does not disperse the weight properly, and so he usually ends up flat on his ass anytime I try to pose him. But before I rant about that for too long, let's move on to the size comparison. I can show you exactly how Kanan stacks up to some others. Freeze frame. Freeze frame on freeze. Here is Kanan next to our previous Star Wars Vintage Collection review, and his wife, Hera Syndulla. That's a lovely shot there. I'm so glad to finally have these two characters set together, even if these appearances are like a decade apart. We'll look past that for now. Here he is next to the golden standard of action figures himself, Dark Times Darth Vader. Here he is next to a Vitruvian Hex skeleton. And here he is next to a Mandalorian of my own design. So as you can see, Kanan is pretty much just the standard size for a male figure in the Vintage Collection line. He's, of course, shorter than Vader. He's about the same size as the Vitruvian Hex skeleton, and about the same height as the Mandalorian if the Mandalorian were to take off his helmet. So, good scale there. Let's move on to my final thoughts so I can tell you exactly what I think about this guy. Freeze frame.
An unknown order in the comms? How queer! I guess we're fucking killing Jedi now. I don't fucking know.
Freeze frame on freeze. So overall, I think that this Season 1 Kanan figure is absolutely amazing. I've been waiting for these Rebels figures, and I've said this in a few reviews now, for quite literally a decade. I watched Rebels as it premiered. I followed it as it aired. I watched the last episode, and I loved this show from the beginning. Fandom be damned, I loved Rebels, and Kanan was a huge part of that show, and therefore I wanted him in Vintage Collection since I was a kid collecting Vintage Collection. Now as an adult, I'm happy I have him. I'm just got to make up for those lost years playing with this figure. And because this figure is very dynamic to pose, it looks great, it feels great, it comes with good amounts of accessories, I think that this is almost a perfect figure. The only thing that would have made it just a little bit better is if there were those boot cuts. But that's really nitpicking at that point. I understand. This is an essential figure for any Rebels fans or any Kanan fans. So if you like Kanan, or you like Phoenix Squadron, or you like Star Wars Rebels, or you like Star Wars in general, make sure you share this video with your friends, share it with Facebook groups, all that good stuff. If you like the content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below. Keeps helping the channel grow, keeps helping me pump out this content. That's going to be pretty much it for this time, my friends. Thank you all so very much for watching, and as always, peace.